Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Online with the CMC, Mapping Our History. This morning, Barb Scoby and Eric McKinney will be presenting, and they will be answering your questions at the end of the presentation, when you will be able to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question that way, or you can always pop your question in the chat box during the presentation. And I'm going to add the link to the evaluation form because we want your feedback, and we also want topics for future Online with the CMC. So Eric, go ahead and take it away.
All righty. Thank you very much, Pam. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mapping Our History, our first Online with the CMC of the new year. Today, Barb Scoby and I will present on cataloging maps and other cartographic materials. And here is our agenda for today's presentation. We will start by introducing ourselves, cover some definitions, look at some cartography-specific fields, and then share some examples. We will answer questions at the end of the presentation, but you can post your question to the chat or wait until the end, and we'll allow you to unmute so you can ask it in person. Yeah, about me, my name is Eric McKinney. Good morning again. I'm the cataloging trainer here at the Cataloging Maintenance Center. I've been here over 3 years now, cataloging all the cool stuff that libraries from around the state send us to be cataloged for free. More on that later. I was inspired to library work by my wife, a high school librarian who gets to visit her library about an hour a day when she's not teaching non-library related courses. Grr. But in our spare time, my wife and I enjoy reading, gardening, canning, gaming, and hanging out with our furry friends. You can see Tyrion there on the left. Note the drool sickles. Griffin is there in the center, looking absolutely fabulous. And Piebald, or Pie for short, is there on the right, and he's patiently waiting for me to take my picture so that he can eat. Let's see, I got my start in a small public library before moving on to an academic library where I've spent the bulk of my cataloging career. I like the variety of items I get here to catalog, as well as learning more about our state's history while cataloging local history items for free. I also enjoy teaching some of the free training courses offered by the CMC. I get to learn new things myself about cataloging when presenting them. So I just want to say thanks for stopping in this morning, and I hope Barb and I can make it worth your time.
Right. Free. Sorry. Hello, I'm Barb Scoby, and I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary at IHLS. I'm the proud mom of 5 cats, Bella, the queen, Murray Bill, yes, he is on the counter, Malcolm, he never smiles when I take a picture of him, and then Veronica the tabby and her fuzzy brother Ferris together in their favorite perch. And these two aren't as innocent as they look, and they grew so they can't be on that platform at the same time anymore. I just realized that the things I enjoy doing in my free time are both warm weather activities, tending to my flower garden and slowly demolishing my rotten front porch. Eventually, I will be forced to continue my search for a reliable and reasonably priced person or company to build a new porch. So if you know anybody. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you, Barb. All right, so first to get going, let's get some definitions out of the way. If you've attended one of our presentations in the past, you likely know that we use OCLC's bibliographic formats and standards as our main guide for cataloging. We will refer to it as BFAS for the remainder of the presentation. For cataloging purposes, defining a map is fairly simple. If it's not a globe, it's a map. This means atlases too should also be cataloged as a map. And you can see the BFAS definition there at the top. Let's see here, plat book, there's the definition. Wikipedia notes that in the United States, a plat or plan is a cadastral map, what a fun word to say, drawn to scale, showing the divisions of a piece of land. And there you can see the BFAS definition of a globe, which is just a celestial body that's depicted on the surface of a sphere. Usually the Earth, but of course you could have one of the other cool planets as well. All right, so some of the cartography specific fields that we'll need to look at. In the 0xx's, we will look at the 007, the 041, and the 043. The 1xx's will look familiar if you've cataloged a book. The 255 will need examined as it is definitely cartography specific. There are 3xx's geared directly at cartographic items, as well as some 5xx's we will look at. Finally, we will discuss the fixed field elements and some of the subject headings that might be used when cataloging cartographic materials. All right, there are several 00X fields we will need to consider when cataloging maps and other cartographic materials, the first being the 007. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all 007 for cartographic materials description. It just kind of depends on what resources you're doing. Those different types of resources do have different subfield entries. For example, the 007 for maps will be different from that of the globes. The slide includes an example for a map and a globe. Let's break them both down, starting with the map. Maps, we use subfields A through H minus subfield C to record the characteristics of the map. Both indicators are undefined, so we can leave those blank. Subfield A will always be A for map. Subfield B provides the specific material designation. In our case here, it's J, which is used to denote maps. The most widely used are going to be D for atlas and J for map, most likely. Of course, globe will differ. Other options are diagram, profile, model, remote sensing image, that's my favorite, section, unspecified, view, and other. Subfield D only has two options for the color characteristics. Is the map one color? Use A. Is it multicolor? Use C. Subfield E is where the primary material the map is made from is recorded. If you are familiar with RDA Registry's list of materials, that is the type of information that is recorded here. Is the map made of paper, vellum, or some other material? Then you can use the appropriate code here. A for maps, of course, is paper, and that's widely used. You can see BFAS or RDA registry for the full list of materials that can be included here. Whether the item is a facsimile or not can be recorded using subfield F. Use F for facsimile, N for not applicable, U for unknown, and Z for other. Subfield G records the production or reproduction details. Options here are photocopy, blue line print, think of the colorations of a standard blueprint, photocopy, pre-production, film, unknown, and other. And finally, for the maps, we'll close out with subfield H, which is used to record the positive or negative aspects of the film. This is also known as the polarity. A positive polarity is dark images on a light background, and we would use A there. And a negative polarity is light images on a dark background, and that's where we would use B to record if our map was a dark polarity, or negative polarity, I'm sorry. The other options are mixed, which is M, if there are a combination of positive and negative, and N for not applicable, meaning the item is not a photocopy or a film. Now we can look at the globes. One of the primary differences here, of course, is there are only 5 subfields that we're going to use for globes. The category of material is A, the specific material designation B, the color is D, the physical medium is E, and type of reproduction is F. Subfield A will always be D for globe. Subfield B is where to record what kind of globe it is. Use A for celestial, B for planetary or lunar, C for terrestrial, E for Earth moon, U for unspecified, and Z for other. Subfield D can be either one color A or multicolored C. Much like maps, subfield E records the physical medium. The list of materials is identical to that of maps. And lastly, subfield F is used to record the facsimile status of the globe. Is it a facsimile or is it not? And I do just want to throw in one note about our examples. I do not use a subfield A, the delimiter, and the A for the actual, because I'm used to cataloging in connection, which doesn't require it. So if you're cataloging in something else, you might be required to actually put in the delimiter and the A, but none of my examples here include that. So just wanted you to be aware of that. All right, we can move on to the 034. Oh, and if you have a word brain like me, your eyes might glaze over, because the 034 is used to record the mathematical data that most maps contain. I do not have a mathematical brain. It might be the scale, a projection value, coordinates, or a combination of them all. Both indicators can be used. The first to record the type of scale, and the second the type of ring, and more on the ring here in just a moment. When recording scale, a first indicator of 0 is used when the scale cannot be determined or there is no scale present on the item. 1 is used when the scale is a single horizontal scale. You've probably seen 1 inch equals 1,000 miles. Think something like that in this happenstance. 2 is used if there is a range of scales, but the thing to note here is the range must be on a single map. It is not intended to cover the range of scales in a plat book or an atlas. So yeah, only if multiple ranges are used on a single map would you use that there. The second indicator is for the type of ring. It only applies to digital cartographic items. Leave it blank if it is not applicable. 0 is for the outer ring, excuse me, or the non-intersecting boundary of the area covered for BFAS. Subfield 1 is for the exclusion ring. BFAS tells us that is the closed non-intersecting boundary of the area within the G polygon outer ring. The Federal Geographic Data Committee describes polygons in G rings as the terminology of G polygon and G ring is taken from the Spatial Data Transfer Standard. In simple terms, a G polygon is a closed, connected, contiguous area. A G ring is a set of coordinates that defines a boundary of the area. The first and last points in the set of coordinates must be the same. The outer G ring describes the outside edge of the G polygon. Inner G rings describe any holes that might occur in the G polygon. All right, y'all still with me after that? Wow. Okay, so there are many subfields that can be used depending on the cartographic material that's being cataloged. Subfield A is used to record the category of scale. Use A for linear or bar scale. This is typically presented as a line that shows distances at a scale, as we discussed earlier. Subfield B is used for the angular scale of celestial charts, and you can use Z for all other scales. Subfields B and C are used to record the constant ratio linear scale with the horizontal scale in B and the vertical scale in C. Record the denominator of the representative fraction for each. And that's just a fancy way of saying use the larger number of the fraction here. As you can see in the 76 million, et cetera, through there. I'm not good with coordinates either, so. All right, subfields D through G are used for the longitude and latitude coordinates. D is for west longitude, E is for east longitude. F is for north latitude. F is for north latitude, and G covers the south latitude. Note that the number should reflect the furthest reaching extent of the cardinal direction. For example, subfield D should reflect the westernmost point of the extent of your item. Subfields H through R are used for celestial charts. The angular scale is recorded in H. J through N record the northern and southern limit of the declination, as well as the eastern and western right ascension limit. Subfield P records the equinox for a celestial chart. It should be in the YYYY date form. Months can be included, but should be appended to the year after a period. R is used to record how far the object being cataloged is from the Earth. This is recorded in light years, but thankfully we don't have to convert those into centimeters. But in case you're an information nerd like me and are now wondering, ChatGPT says that 1 light year is approximately 9.461 times 10 to the 17th power centimeters. And to finish out the 0, 3, 4 subfields, we have S and T, where we can record the latitude in S and the longitude in T of a point in our new friend, the G ring. Subfields X and Y are used for the beginning and ending date of the data described by the coordinates. X is for the beginning, while Y should contain the ending date. Both should be recorded in a YYYY MMDD format. And we end up with Z, used to record the name of the extraterrestrial body being cataloged. Extraterrestrial is key here. Specifically, BFAS says if subfields D through G do not describe anything on Earth, subfield Z should be used. Notice the subfield Z of moon in our globe example. All right, now let's look at some of the 0,4X's and 0,5X's that we're going to need. The 041 is one that is certainly not specific to cataloging maps. It is used to record the original language of the item. Both indicators might apply. Excuse me. The first is for translation information. If the item is or includes a translation, use 0. If not, use 1. The second indicator is used for recording the source of code. The only options are blank, indicating it is a marked language code, or 7, indicating a subfield 2 will be present that has the source specified. The URL for the list of LC source codes is included on our resources slide at the end. Note that this example is not from today's examples coming later, but it's an example from another example that I found when I was looking for examples. The 043, also not cartography specific, but it is frequently used since most maps are dealing with a geographic area. Enter the appropriate code for the geographic area from the marked code list for languages, and that URL is also included on our resources slide. That's going to bring us to the 052, and that's used to record the geographic classification. It's basically a more precise version of the 043 that can drill down to geographic subareas as well as populated place names in code form. The codes are for the 052 are taken from the LC classification class G. However, only the range of G3190, 3190 through G9980, G9980 are used. The G is dropped when recording the number in the record. The first indicator is for the code source. It is left blank when using LC's class G classification scheme. An indicator of 1 is used when the classification code is taken from the U.S. Department of Defense rather than the LC. An indicator of 7 denotes the source will be specified in subfield 2. The second indicator is undefined, so we'll leave that one blank. The most widely used subfields are A for the geographic classification area code, B for the sub-area code, and D for the populated place name. You might see a subfield 1 with a link to a resource on the item. And note from the globe example that the 052 is repeatable. The first 052 contains 3167, which is the GTEX code for globes / individual planets and moons. The M6 in subfield B denotes the moon. The second 052 of 3195 represents a heading of moon-general. All right, let's look at the 1XX and 2XXs. All right, much like books, cartographic materials generally require a main entry in a 1XX, though not always. Barb once created a record for a late 1800s hand-drawn map of trails that had no one credited. So like your teachers always said, put your name on your work. A date would also be good because catalogers love it if they don't have to track down a date. If the item is created by a corporate body, a 110 is used. If it can be credited to a single person, a 100 is more appropriate. The indicator rules are the same. The 255 is our only cartography-specific field in the 2XXs. Use it for the cartographic mathematical data. Both indicators are undefined, so we can leave those blank, and the subfields are A through G. Subfield A is the statement of scale. Record the entire scale statement here. Be sure to include any equivalency statements. You can also record vertical scales or vertical exaggeration statements for relief models or other three-dimensional items. Record the entire projection statement in subfield B if that is included on the item as well. The coordinates are recorded in subfield C. That should be recorded in the order of westernmost longitude, easternmost longitude, northernmost latitude, and southernmost latitude. Record coordinates in the form hemisphere, degrees, minutes, seconds, or in other forms such as decimal degrees. The coordinates should be enclosed in parentheses, and the latitude, longitude statements should be separated by 2 hyphens. Use a slash to separate the latitudes. Subfield D is used with celestial charts to record the statement of zone if it is divided into zones. If the scale is given for a degree of the chart, the exact coordinates can be recorded here. Subfield E is the statement of equinox for charts recording equinox information for a specific year. Use subfield E to record that. It should be contained within the same parentheses as subfield D, separated by a space, colon, space. All right, and back to some more probably familiar fields if you've cataloged a book. In this cataloger's opinion, the definitions of the mode of issuance options, single unit and multiple unit in the RDA registry are not terribly helpful. I like to think of it as, how does it circulate? If the record is for an item that is checked out as a complete item in and of itself, single unit is appropriate. Because of this, even kits, often comprised of many items, are considered single units. Using multiple unit in a record is appropriate when the record is for a series of items where a single item of the whole can be checked out. Think a series of atlases where a single volume could be checked out to a patron. I would use multiple unit in this happenstance. There are several options for the content type in the 336, depending upon the item being cataloged. Here are some of the options that cover maps, globes, and cartographic moving images. And let's finish out our 33Xs with 337 and 338. The 337 will typically be the same as it is for books, unmediated, with a subfield B of N and a subfield 2 of RDA media. The 338 will be different for maps and globes. A globe should be recorded with object in subfield A. With a plat book being considered an atlas, a 338 of volume is appropriate. Use NR for subfield B and RDA carrier for subfield 2. 500s. 500s are worth mentioning, although of course they're not really cartography specific, but you're often going to find quite a few of them in maps or globes. And this is an example from the globe that we will look at later. And you can see that there are several, everything from the data sources to the diameter is recorded in just a general note here. All right, the 522 is a note field specifically for geographic coverage. This is where we get to use our words like big catalogers for the codes that we put in our 052s. If the 052 is coded 4103 for Illinois, we can use Illinois in subfield A of our 522. The first indicator is left blank to indicate it is geographic coverage information. The second indicator is undefined. BFAST states that the 522 is usually used for survey materials. I include the 546 or varying title here because, as discussed earlier, a 041 might be needed. And I typically consider those two fields as kind of companion fields, if not BFFs. While BFAST says the terminal period is optional for the 546, that should be used. We do kind of go with the optional, excuse me, punctuation. There is a 581 or publications about described materials note present because there was a conference report actually published about the globe. So you can see that information there. Should you want to go read more about the globe, there's a report. And including a 588, the source of description note will be necessary if the title in 245A is taken from somewhere other than a title page. And this is going to be more common, of course, with globes than with plat books. Although some of those aren't great at title pages either. All right, fixed field elements. Here you can see the fixed fields for a plat book at the top and our globe at the bottom. Type E is for cartographic material. Our B level is M for monograph item. CRTP is used to record the type of cartographic material.
Eric, you need to
Yes.
advance. You need to
Oh,
advance the.
that would help, wouldn't it? There we go.
Yep.
Hey, look at there. Now you can see what I'm talking about. All right. So yep, the type E is for cartographic material. Let's see, is monograph item. CRTP is used to record the type of cartographic material or cartographic type. E denotes atlas. D is used for a globe. This DESC, DASC is I, since we are using ISBD punctuation. Because the plat books has an index, there is a 1 in the index field. If a type of projection is noted on the item, it should be recorded in the proj field. PROJ, but there was not one for this. The relief 2 should be recorded if known. Use the RELF field for that. I use T and DTST to denote a publication and a copyright date. The plat book is in English and it was published in Illinois. The globe was published in California. All right, and here next we'll take a look at some of the subject headings that we might come across or use when we're doing a map or a globe. And here's the short list of common subject headings to use while cataloging cartographic materials. There are many more. Note that directories is only used in the 651 and 655 if the item contains a list of names. This, of course, is going to be more typical of plat books than maps or globes. I've personally never had the opportunity to catalog a globe. A celestial globe would be especially cool. So if you happen to have a special collection of globes lying around your library that contains one, let me know. Also, if you have the ability to say cadastral without having fun, you are a more serious-minded human being than I. Cadastral. I apologize. Let's move on, and Barb will start us off with our examples. I'll return with more bad jokes in a bit. Take it away, Barb.
There. I will be discussing the records for 2 different types of maps. Hubbard scientific maps, which are raised relief maps, and Sanborn maps, which are fire insurance maps. Say maps 3 times. This is my own personal map, so I won't be putting the record in OCLC. I bought this in the early 2000s for my grandma at the map shop in Mesa, Arizona. As a tactile person, I can assure you that running your fingers across this map is pretty darn fun. The picture on the right is of Ferris the kitten examining the map legend that is located on the right edge of the map. So touching this map may be fun, but cataloging it was challenging to me. I used the OCLC record for the Denver area Hubbard scientific map for reference, but some of the information in that record didn't make sense to me. I really, really tried not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I was stuck on what to put in the 034 field. So I emailed the map shop. No response. So I went to the Edwardsville Public Works office with the map in hand to see if anyone there could confirm that the numbers I had were correct. The man who helped me said he was pretty sure that I had the correct numbers, but not 100% sure. Just like I don't speak map, he doesn't speak cataloging. Then someone from the map shop finally responded to my email. Some of the metadata in other fields is cataloger's judgment. I am totally willing to discuss any choices I made that you may disagree with. Okay, back to the actual cataloging part. I want to touch on two of the fixed fields. For the PROJ fixed field, I chose BH for transverse Mercator. Mercator? I don't know. Thank goodness that transverse Mercator was printed on the map. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known. For the RELF field, I just used what the record for the Denver map had. A, contours, which means relief is represented by contours. And then G, spot heights, where relief is represented by spot heights. But do those only apply to 2D maps? I wasn't sure, so I just threw those in anyway. As for the 007 field, I used the values table in bib formats, and for a few of the subfields, I clicked on the 007 map link when I needed a fuller example of explanation than the chart provided. So the big arrow is the values table, which you see on the right side of the page. And then the smaller arrow, excuse me, gets you to the explanation. Okay. As I mentioned in the 034 field, it's where I ran into trouble. Obviously, I couldn't use the numbers on the Denver record, but my new best friend at the map shop confirmed my guess that the number for D, subfield D, is found in the upper and lower left-hand corners of the map. So 112. E comes from the upper and lower right-hand corners at 110 and 110, and I highlighted those in green. F comes from the top corner of the map, and that's the latitude. I don't remember. And G comes from the bottom corners of the map. Next slide. Yeah. Okay, finding the information for the 052 geographic classification it's always been a trial for me. Most of you already know how to make this magic happen, but I'm going to put it here just in case there are some who don't. The quickest and easiest way to get to the cutter table that has all the information is to bookmark this link, the one at the top, loc.gov, CatDir, CPSO. Okay, so that's the easiest one. But if you forget, and like me, and you can't remember where to find it, go to the 052 page in bib formats and click on the Library of Congress Class G link. This should take you to the loc.gov, ABA publications, and then you would click on the G through J at the top of the screen, and then click on subclass G, cartographic materials. Download the file, and then do Control F, and then type in Arizona cities or whatever you were searching for. So, you know, Evansville, Illinois. Okay, so scroll down, and so you will see in the upper left-hand corner that 4334 is the number for Arizona. And then scroll down and then look for the city you're looking for. So in this case, it will be for Mesa M5. Okay. I'm done with that slide. Okay. I'm going to quickly touch on fields 338, 522, 588, and the 650, which if you notice, I have marked it out in red. 338, I decided to go with sheet as a carrier type, but couldn't it be an object as well, since the vinyl sheet went through a process that made it three-dimensional? And then Pam reminded me that 338 is repeatable, so I put both sheet and object in the record. As Eric mentioned in the previous slide, BFAS states that the 522 is usually used for survey materials. So I didn't include it because I'm not sure that field's necessary for this record. So for 588, I suppose I could put title divided by cataloger, since I'm the one who took all the info at the top of the map and made up the title. Okay, so for the 650, while going down the rabbit hole, I learned that relief models are not topographic maps. I left the 650 on the slide so that I remember to mention it to you that, yeah, this 3D relief model is not a topographic map. Okay, these Sanborn fire insurance maps are just so cool. They were created in the late 19th and early centuries by the Sanborn Company for fire insurance companies. These maps allow fire insurance companies to assess their total liability in towns and cities in the United States in case there's a fire. The maps contain detailed information about the physical location and types of buildings found in the town, as well as a very colorful key and an index of the property owners. This collection is of Galena, Illinois in 1996. These maps contain just so much information. And if you look at the 520 field, you can see how many things are put into these maps. And also, I thought this was cool that fire insurance maps is actually a genre heading. I thought that was pretty cool. So back to you, Eric.
All right, thank you, Barb. All right, we'd like to wrap up today by taking a look at a plat book. And as you can see here on the screen, we have the 2023 Stark County, Illinois Plat and Directory Book. The plat book was sent to us by the Wyoming Public Library District. The OCLC record created for it is on the left. Let's look at our specific fields for it. Since we reviewed the fixed field elements for both a plat book and a globe, the only thing I will point out here is that the CRTP is coded here, which is coded for atlas. I'm sorry, the 007 tells us our item is a map that is an atlas. It is multicolored, made of paper. It is not a facsimile or a photocopy or a film, so the polarity can be coded as in for not applicable. Our 034 is simply the denominator of the ratio in the 255. Because the maps are all of Illinois locales, a 043 of N-US-IL has been added. The 255 gives the fuller form of the information in the 034. The 300 notes the item is an atlas with maps and illustrations. Note the 336 of cartographic image. We have 3 4 zeros to cover the binding information, the color content, and the illustrative content respectively. A 353 of index has been added to account for its presence. Unlike our globe, only a single 500 field is used here. A 588 is used as the title was taken from the cover rather than a title page. The plat book does contain a table of contents, so that information can be recorded in a 505, and I used the enhanced version of the 505 there. Basic would also be fine too. Because binding information is included in the 340 subfield L, a 563 is used for the type of binding recorded there. To finish out the record, you can see the subject heading used and the addition of the publisher in a 710. All right, and that covers our brief look at plat books. Here are our resources used in the presentation today. And again, we do have the presentation without notes already posted in L2, but we will be posting the version with notes shortly after. So we hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Does anybody have any questions? And also, if you would please take a moment to fill out the evaluation form, the link is on L2. That would be fantastic because your feedback is always appreciated, and it also gives us ideas for what other topics you might like to learn a little bit more about. So yes, please, feedback is great. All right, and here are all the wonderful people on the call. Check us out, looking like the SIL Team 6 of cataloging. We're ready to deploy for your free cataloging needs. And you can always contact us at cmc@illinoisheartland.org if you'd like more information on that. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Eric and Barb, thanks so much. This is Pam again. We've got one question so far. For your plat book example, could you have included the genre term cadastral map?
Yes. Now that I think about it, yes, I could. And I should have, because like I said, cadastral is just fun to say.
And you
So
can
yeah,
still go back and add it because
exactly. So
that's
yeah,
the
good
fun of
call.
cataloging.
Yay.
It's
Yep.
not like brain surgery.
Yeah, you don't want me doing that. But yeah, no, yep, that should be added. I agree.
And if you are in a place where you can unmute yourself and ask a question, you have that power to do so right now. Just a reminder that next month, Barb will be covering fabricated realia, exploring textile realia. And that'll be February 13th if you haven't registered for that in L2 yet. And yes, the evaluation link is here in the chat as well as on L2. And we'll be sending out the link to the recording probably early next week. So does anybody else have any other questions?
Nope.
It's Zoom. It does it every time. It's evil.
It is. There we go.
You can just stop sharing if you want to, if that's easier.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I'm hit to share, but I don't see the stop share on them. As you noted, Zoom.
It's evil sometimes, yes.
Why do you hate me?
I don't know. Nobody has any other questions? If you don't have any questions about today's presentation, you can also ask us just general cataloging questions as well. We will do our best to answer those.
There it is. Hey, I found it. Yay. Look at me go.
Technology. Okay, I guess we don't have any other questions, and I just want to thank Barb and Eric for a great presentation, and hopefully we will see you next month.
Thanks all.